Welcome to the Undiscovered Gems podcast, hosted by NBA legend and business powerhouse Charles D. Smith, highlighting today's best and brightest business minds.
Hello and welcome to Undiscovered Gems. I'm your host, Charles D. Smith, and we have another episode. We have an episode coming, as you see, Sherri Alexandrovich. She is 7 years in a row the best behavioral health clinic in her field, in her area, in her city, in her state. She is our professional of the year, and she started a company called New Beginnings Wellness Center. This is a center that is impeccable. We're going to learn why she's 7 years in a row the best at what she does. And her focus is helping the underserved population. Sherri, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I am awesome and ready to hear what you have to say. I want to start off by asking you, how did you get into this business, health behavior business?
So I got into this business to help other people. I have a lot of experiences in my life that has kind of unfolded my journey to where it has ended today, which is being a behavioral health therapist. I was an emancipated youth at 15, and I've had a pretty eclectic background of a variety of different challenges that I've had to overcome. And so one of the things for me that's been really, really important is to be able to serve as, a role model, to be able to serve as, a person that can just help people in need, where my journey is one where I didn't have a lot of access to services, and there really wasn't a lot of people, back when I was 15 years old or 40 years ago. The behavioral health field was very different than it is today. And so I think that, just my strong passion to help other people to not have to experience maybe the depth of what I've experienced, or maybe to have access to services that they're not aware of, or just to be that one person that can help somebody get through the next stage or the next phase of their journey. That's something. So New Beginnings for me is a personal journey. It's not a job for me. It's something that I absolutely love. I'm very passionate about, and it's just who I am in all facets of my life, whether I'm in the office, outside of the office, or personal. It's just always wanting to help and do more and be able to just kind of help people with the what's next.
Yes, and I've interviewed so many successful people, such as yourself, and there's a synergistic value that is created within them that's only special to them. And when you look at, you just talked about your journey a little bit, and you look at what you went through, and the first thing you say, I want to help people so they don't experience what I experienced. That is the heartbeat and the heartline that starts your journey towards success, because that's what you're looking at every step of the way. So when you begin to see different things on the periphery, you build those into what you've experienced to be successful. So today, I mentioned that at the start of the show, your company, New Beginnings, has been 7 years in a row as the best behavioral health center. Why is that?
I would say that my staff are absolutely amazing, so they get the credit for for our absolutely amazing reputation that we have in the community. But our philosophy here at New Beginnings is we are employee focused and client centered, and that's something that is to the core of who I am as a person. And I have really worked super hard over the last, almost 11 years now to foster that culture here and be able to continue to provide new things for staff. One of the challenges in being in the mental health field is you're what's called a fee-for-service provider. And so you get paid for the clients that you see. Prior to starting New Beginnings, I worked at several other really large organizations here in Worcester. And kind of out of that was the checklist of things that I wanted differently for when I started New Beginnings and to be able to support. one of the biggest challenges is we get paid by the clients that we see. So if our client doesn't show up, or if there's a snowstorm, or if our kiddo is sick, it makes it really difficult for us to be able to pay our mortgage or pay our bills or make our rent, or, be able to survive. And I think that that's a huge barrier to working in the mental health field is financial. So we have a passion, we love it, but to be able to afford, especially if you have a family or you're a single parent, which I was for many, many years, and to be able to, what happens when you're sick and you don't have that time off to take. So what I've developed here is the structure with New Beginnings is not only do my providers get all of the same benefits if they were a salaried, provider, but they have that flexibility to see as few or as many clients as they want. And I'm always making sure that we're competitive in our pay. There is equality across the board. I don't think I can stress enough the importance of that for New Beginnings is when you start, based on what your position is, everybody starts at the same starting pay. Everybody gets $1 a year raise. There isn't any favoritism to who you are, what you know, what languages that you speak. Everybody here is treated equally, and we're a family and we're a team. And we have an open door policy. My door is always open. My cell phone is just it's always available to staff, regardless of whether they just need to process something or they're having an emergency. But going back to the benefits, so I started a 401k company match 3 years ago. After COVID, I offer health insurance to my employees. I offer sick time and availability to earn PTO time. So my staff has the option to earn 2 to 2.5 weeks of time off a year. That's not something that you get at many other places here because you're a fee-for-service provider. So what that means is you go in, you do your job, you bill for the hours that you work. You don't have the benefits that go with it. And so rather than creating a salary structure here that really kind of pigeonholes people into how many clients that they have to see, productivity. I don't want to be tied to that. I've tried that model. It doesn't work here. I have found that the best way I can support my providers is to offer them that flexibility to be able to create their own schedule. We don't micromanage here. You see the clients that your schedule allows. We do a huge emphasis on home life work balance and the importance of that. I think just, I've raised quite a few kids, and I recently adopted my grandson, who I've had since he's been 3 weeks old. So just parenting over the years and knowing what that does to a person's schedule and how you need to try to be in 3 or 4 different places at the same time and be able to give the best that you can give at your job to be able to get paid. So we've worked really hard at creating a structure here that offers kind of the best of all those worlds. So we don't put a big tag on how many clients that you have to see in order to get the health insurance. We have a very minimal number that looks like. My philosophy really is that the only way that we can give good service to the community is to be the best version of who we can be. We can't be the best version of who we can be if we're burnt out, if we're worried about how we're paying our rent, if we have to worry about, what happens when my kiddo gets sick and how do I get that coverage. So coming from a single parent perspective, I really created a culture here at New Beginnings where I can offer the most that I can financially afford to offer as a business to give back to my staff. The best way for us to serve the clientele is for us to be in a place where we are in good frame of mind. You don't have to see 50 clients in order to make your productivity. There's ways that you can see your clients, get the hours that you need, and not tax yourself to the point where you're burnt out and you don't want to do this anymore. And that's another one of the big challenges in this industry is the burnout rate. It's really difficult. So if I, like I said, I have all my supervisors that work under me and we split up our staff. So everybody's got about 5 or 6 people so that my staff feels individualized. And everybody has that opportunity to come into supervision and not only get the clinical guidance, the clinical support, the trainings, everything that goes with it, we all know each other personally. We do summer outings, we do Christmas outings, we do, prior to COVID, we ran the Rugged Maniac as a team. There were just so many things that we do together as a team that helps to bond us. And, we're at 42, I think, employees right now, which is pretty average for us. I won't be any bigger than that because I currently know all of my staff's name. I know all of their family dynamics. I know who just had a baby, who's coming back from maternity leave. I know who's struggling with, personal problems. That's important to me because then I can just send that text message and let them know that I'm here for whatever it is that they need. And that support is the reason that I've had people with me since I've opened my door, which is amazing to have clinicians that have been with you for 11 years running. That's almost unheard of in this industry.
It is unheard of. Sherri, you deflect the credit, you take care of your staff, you make sure that the clients get the best care they can possibly get.
Mm.
A lot of businesses thrive to build what you've built, which is a family environment within a corporate structure. That's very hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you've achieved it. Have you seen this anywhere else? And if that's given you the model to do it?
I did corporate prior to coming into the mental health field. So I was a single parent. I had 2 kids when I was 20 and I had a high school education. So even though this was my end goal, my journey took a little bit of a change when I became a mom. So I did corporate. I was a database programmer for a little over 10 years while I was going back to school. So I did work in a couple of different corporate organizations. And one of the agencies that I had worked for was a pretty big agency in Natick, and it's called the MathWorks. And I worked there for a few years, and I had left there only because I finally obtained my master's degree to move into this industry. But that agency, that corporation was so employee focused that I just felt really good working there. I felt like even though that company is worldwide and it's national and it's huge and they have, thousands of employees, you didn't feel like you were one of 1,000. You at least that was my experience in the department that I worked in. And so I really held on to that over the years and what I wanted to look for when I went out into, into the mental health business. After working at a couple of different agencies here in the community, it became clear that those are not models that are, transferable into the mental health field. And so it's because it's such a different field and the expectations are very different that it kind of took me some time to figure out, over the years of starting New Beginnings. We didn't start off right out the gate with, okay, this is my business model. I know exactly where I'm going. It's been a learning curve. I mean, I started this on my own. I didn't have any guidance. I Googled my business plan. I just kind of figured it out from scratch. And just knowing what I wanted and what was important to me and knowing what I didn't want and what I were really kind of hard lines for me, that's where I took my business model. And I just did a pros and a cons list and just really try to stay true to who I am as a person and who would I want to work for and the importance of the why. Why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? And not ever losing focus or losing touch of what that is, because that's what drives us. That's what gets us up every day. That, for me, I leave sessions still to this day and I just sometimes just have so much more clarity or these epiphanies, or as I'm talking, what I'm able to teach or train or help, whether it's I'm doing a staff training or I'm working with a client, is not just the educational piece of what I've acquired. It's not just the number of master's degrees or the letters or any of that comes after your name. None of that's important. What's important is how am I going to take my life experience, my educational experience, my personal experience, my professional experience, and then apply that into something that's relatable. Because I think that's what's really important in this field is what's relatable. And that's how we're going to really reach the population that, for me, that is so, so very important.
Seeing that you've achieved this award 7 years in a row as the best in your field, I did hear you say that you don't get paid unless you serve clients. So you
Mhm.
have a certain amount of clients that come through your doors. So I wouldn't expect this next question for you to do it in your city, but has anyone ever asked you to do best practices or share your model in other states?
No, they have not. But during COVID, the insurance companies, the mass health insurance companies, the
Hmm.
people who have been doing my audits over the years, because every year we have to have a certain amount of audits, we were asked to share how it is that we were able to be so incredibly successful throughout
Exactly.
COVID in the telehealth
Yeah.
world and be able to engage our clients and our kids. That was, oh my goodness, that was just such a huge one, was how do you engage kids under the age of 12 in a
Right.
telehealth model when the world is shut down and parents are struggling and the kids are struggling and the teachers are out of work. And gosh, that was such a really just challenging time for us, and we were
Hmm.
flooded with referrals. There was no way we could service all of the kids that needed to be serviced. So we did such a great job, and when I say we, I really honestly, my staff
Hmm.
just absolutely, I just can't talk enough about how amazing they are. Created a internal Facebook page where everybody just shared resources. It wasn't something that was public. It was just, for us internally. And everybody did such a great job of sharing resources and tools and ways to
Hmm.
work through the telehealth model. And, part of what I do is all of my employees get a $50 a month stipend for supplies. So whatever it is that you
Wow.
need, you submit the receipt. We don't look at it. We just kind of Venmo you your $50 for your supplies. That's really important. The trainings, any application that you need, people just send me an email and we just take care of it. I mean, I want everybody here to have access to anything that they need to be successful in
Hmm.
order to be able to meet the needs of the community. And that really comes with finances. I mean, that's right. That's
Well,
what it boils down to, is having the ability, and for me, being able to give it back. And every year we do a profit share. I do a bonus. I I do a tuition reimbursement. I do sign-on bonuses. We do trainings. I pay them to go to trainings. Like, it just, the amount of give back that happens with New Beginnings is astronomical. It doesn't go in my pocket by any stretch of the imagination, because that's not why I do this. I don't do
right.
this for the money. New Beginnings was never meant so that I could, sit back and not have to work. I mean, I still put in 50, 60, 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
I'm just always plugged in and always just wanting to do the best that I can do to help support the staff to be able to give to the community.
Yeah. I hear it as you speak about your business. I still hear your journey and everything you went through, and you're flipping it over and passing it off to take care of people. As you've gone through the aspects of building the business,
Mm,
you were met with a lot of adversity, people not believing you can pull it off,
mhm.
going into a field that is oversaturated. Um, Tell us about, I mean, clearly you had the drive, you were intentional, and you weren't going to be stopped because you're successful today. But share with the audience those real ups and those downs where you had to persevere and stay with it. Because a lot of people give up.
Mhm.
When you get hit with a left, a right, gut punch,
Yeah,
it's hard to get back up at times and keep going. So talk to them
right.
about why your perseverance and some of the things that you had on your journey.
So failure is not an option. I don't present that to myself as being an option. I am extremely determined. When I have something in my head, I have a path, and I know that that's where I'm headed. And I little stubborn. I'm a natural redhead, so it comes with my personality. It kind of shows through in all aspects of my life, but that's okay. It is who I am. So some of the challenges we overcame. So when I made the decision to start a behavioral health clinic. I really, like I said, didn't really have a whole lot of idea about where I was going or what I was doing. I was really burnt out on vacation with a friend and had this idea, I can start a behavioral health clinic. Literally, New Beginnings was formed on a napkin on the beach. Don Julio may have been involved with that. And it was like, oh, I can do this. Is, you get that liquid courage. So I came back and I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And it just really started to spiral. And when it came to the point of needing to get our insurance paneling, that's where we got the pushback. It was absolutely incredible. So for me, I'm not part of a
Excuse me, tell the audience what insurance paneling is.
So we are an insurance-driven operation. So how we get paid is we bill the insurance company for the services that we conduct with our clients. So in order to have the insurance companies pay us, we need to be paneled. We need to be approved through that insurance company in order to bill for them. So what happened was we got denied. We got denied for our first insurance paneling. And I was told by some of the mass health providers there wasn't a need for another behavioral health clinic in Worcester. So I did my due diligence and I did cold calls and I called every single behavioral health clinic within hours of Worcester community and found out the wait list. So then I rebutted and I went back and I appealed these denials and I gave proof and spreadsheets. And of course I was a database programmer, so you can imagine the amount of detail that went into my appeals to then be denied again, which was interesting. And so I personally know why that was happening, and that's okay. We live in a very political world. We live in a world where, if people scream really loud, sometimes they are heard a little bit louder than those of us who choose to not get involved for the wrong reasons. So I called Rondell Williams on Channel 5 News and we were live out front. And I will tell you what, by 6 o'clock, my phone was ringing that there was an oversight and the insurance companies were really very disappointed to see that there was this oversight. And guess what? We were up and running the next day. One of the other insurance companies, they just kept saying, okay, your contract's being signed. It's coming. It's coming. Now, I had a 3-week-old really sick baby when I had gotten my grandson. He's born from addiction and a lot of health problems. So I'll tell you, I sat in Boston for 2 days at that health insurance in the waiting room where they had to pass me every time they went to the bathroom. I was not leaving that waiting room until I had my signed contract, because what we do is bigger than all of the BS that can happen, right? I'm not going to engage in that. As far as I'm concerned, there's enough sand in this sandbox for everybody. We don't have to play favorites. And that is why equality is so important to me here. Everybody knows what they're getting themselves into. I'm transparent. I'm honest of who we are, what is okay and what is not okay, because we've worked so hard to get here. And there have just been, over the years, different agencies that would report me to the licensing board that my website was misrepresented. So then I would, and I never have a problem, because when I tell you that 3,000% of the time, we do the right thing. I mean, DPH walks in my doors and like, oh, that's right, Sherri, you're the binder lady. I mean, I don't know if you can see behind me, there are binders upon binders upon binders. Like, you don't even understand how well documented we are. And so it's hard to dispute that, right? You can't dispute facts.
No, and you cannot. And it sounds like being called the binder lady. Whenever people came to your door, your materials were always ready in advance, because you know what they're going to ask or what they need.
Yep.
And that's very important with any business that you start.
I agree.
So that's another credit to you to understand that and be able to do that. Now, again, with your journey, you've had people along the way that have helped you, sort of like mentors.
Yes.
And I'm sure you mentor people as well. Talk about one or two mentors that was really critical, that probably gave you, and I know there's a lot of help along the way, but one or two that have given you the biggest push that you can look at and say, this is really for me at that time?
I would say that a friend of mine, he's still a friend of mine, but a really good friend of mine, back when I decided to start New Beginnings, his name is Mo Edwards. And he was really a big supporting driving force for me of helping me get the QuickBooks, because he's a CPA, so getting the QuickBooks up and running and fundamentally helping me with what that structure looks like. He was friends of mine. My friend Nicole Brennan was a great resource helping me financially as well as I got up and running and what that looked like. And so my personal friends, my friend group, really, my daughter, Holly, who was an unbelievable help in helping with my grandson, Christopher, and just what all of like that support system for me, I couldn't be here today without it. My landlord, he, oh my goodness, he's since retired and sold my building, but my goodness, if I could have had him for a father, they're just like Ed Saloon was.
Oh, really?
Oh my goodness, I love him so much. He was just this facility was empty for like 2 years before because he was so picky at who he would rent to. And I walked in and I said, okay, this is way more space than I needed because at the time there was 12 of us. But I just was like, this is it. This is home. He gave me 6 months of free rent. This is what I'm talking about. The people who were part of New Beginnings, it's moving when people don't have an end game or motivation for it. They're there because they believe in you and they love you and they trust you and they want you to be successful. And that's, I'm sorry. I get so,
I get it.
I'm so
no,
sorry.
I get it. No.
So my landlord was just, honestly, I did not have the funds to be able to do what I did without the help from the people who helped me. And so that for me was huge. My attorney, Pam Stevens, my CPA, Janet Orem, all of those were with me from conception and were such great sounding boards and help. Knowing, here I am. I didn't have anything. I had a lien on my house to second mortgage to take out my business loan. Right. I'm not rich. I've cashed out my 401ks. I literally lived on credit cards to put everything I owned into New Beginnings Wellness Center. When my billing company, when you look at the number, so when you get added into payroll, we were all assigned a number. I'm number 12. And that's because I was the 12th person in line before I even received a paycheck because my staff got paychecks first. And I just lived off of the funds that I could scrape or come up with before I could start. And now obviously the 11 years in, my business loans are paid off and everything has really kind of come full circle. So I know that's a really long rambling sentence to your question, but that really was so important to me is all of the people who were part of it, who supported me, who stood behind me. There's just such a list of people who were always there no matter what. And when I didn't think that I could do it, reminded me of my why and reminded me of why I'm doing it and the importance of just sticking with it no matter how hard it got. Because there were times where, I remember about 6 years ago, the insurance companies had done a changeover in their billing system and they were behind and they had owed me a couple $100,000 in back payment. And I had payroll coming up. And I remember sitting on my bathroom floor, throwing up and crying, writing my speech to my staff that I can't pay them this week. And, I called, you can imagine the number of people. And then when Melody Velez called me at 11 o'clock at night and said, Sherri, she was my biller at the time, and she's still with me 11 years later, and said, they deposited the money. The money's there. All of the money is there. And I was just like,
Nice.
Those are the moments that you don't forget, because it's like, I didn't have the money for payroll. I was already maxed out. I was already taxed. Middlesex Savings Bank. Let me tell you, that bank above and beyond. The original bank I had gone to pulled my business loan at the last minute because of some things that I had since taken care of. Middlesex stepped up. Susan Johnson came right in and she's like, we're going to make this happen. And when I needed to take out a second mortgage because there were more things that needed to happen, they were right there to support me because they believed in me. I didn't have anything really other than my house as collateral. I'm not a rich person. And yet still, they believed in my mission. They believed in what we were going to do for the community enough to be able to give me what we needed as an agency. So the sacrifices that people have made and how important it is to me to just make sure that everybody knows that this journey has just been full of such incredible, amazing people. And that is the reason that we are so successful, is because people genuinely care. We're an agency filled with people who care. And that,
well, you care. You care. Sherri, you care. And you've been able to really build your whole business with a circle of grace. You giving to people, people giving to you. It's an incredible story. I, as well as the audience, clearly see why you're successful. Sherri, I got to say, you're a professional of the year for great reason. I want to thank you for coming on the show. Incredible show. I think we could have talked for a whole day. There's so much more to cover. But I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was so nice to meet you. Oh, and you've got a big birthday coming up in July, I saw. So happy. We're like a fine wine. We just get better with age. Come on.
Yeah, there you go. So I want to thank everybody for attending another show of Undiscovered Gems. I'm Charles D. Smith. I'm your host. And thank you, Sherri Alexandrovich, for attending today.
Thank you so much. It was nice to meet you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Undiscovered Gems with our host, Charles D. Smith, highlighting today's best and brightest business minds. Brought to you by Pods Entertainment Group.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.